Oh my god, the Acolyte has killed Star Wars. That is absolutely incorrect. Disney had murdered Star Wars many, many years before. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. So the Acolyte killed Star Wars, huh? Oh, welcome to the party. You're just catching up. The fact is, Star Wars has been dead for pretty much, I would say, 9 or so years. Not necessarily in terms of the box office. I mean, current box office, 100%. Mainly because there hasn't been a Star Wars movie at the theaters in over 5 years now, because the sequel trilogy killed that off in great fashion. But back in 2015 and 2016, Disney actually had very good success with The Force Awakens and also Rogue One. But it's Rogue One where the problems really started to hit home. I can take or leave the film itself, a very boring first half followed by a much better second half. However, it's actually the marketing that surrounded the movie, particularly what Kathleen Kennedy herself said. But what about The Last Jedi? We're getting there. Take this article from Screen Rant back in November of 2016, before the release of Rogue One. Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy says she doesn't need to cater to male fans. That was the first blow. Kathleen Kennedy's hubris got the better of her as regards to why The Force Awakens was a success. And the reason why it was a success was because it was a Star Wars film. The first Star Wars film to hit the cinemas since Revenge of the Sith. It really was as simple as that, but Kathleen Kennedy likely saw it as, right, everybody has accepted my female protagonist, this is how we're going to go forward with everything. I mean, don't take into consideration the near 40 years that it had taken to build up such an extensive fan base. But credit where credit's due, congratulations on managing to destroy that in less than 10. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? No. Rogue One was another massive success, taking over $1 billion at the box office. However, it did have an astronomical production and marketing budget, casting doubts on whether or not this movie did in fact make any money at all. But perception is reality. 2 Star Wars movies under Disney's banner, 2 female-led protagonists, 2 monumental successes in their eyes. What could go wrong? Kathleen Kennedy was right. She doesn't need to cater to men at all. Now, in recent years, of course, males within the Star Wars sphere have been called sexist and misogynistic, which is odd considering the success of these 2 projects. It's really as if they don't care who leads it, but whether or not that film is fun, interesting, engaging, escapism, a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars. The Force is female, and Kathleen Kennedy wanted everybody to know that now. And even though this campaign that's been advertised was about Nike trainers for women, there's no denying the link here between Kathleen Kennedy, bad reboot, and The Force is female. Of course it was meant to be exactly what it says on a t-shirt. Just from a logical standpoint, what purpose does doing something like this truly serve? Potentially alienating part of your audience, a big part of your audience, the vast majority of your audience, which is male, by putting these slogans in there. After all, if there was a t-shirt saying the Force is male, just imagine the uproar that would cause in these circles. This right here is a statement of intent. Kathleen Kennedy is telling you exactly what she's going to do to Star Wars. I wouldn't call this particularly feminist because I don't think feminism exists anymore. I do, however, believe there is a severe anti-male sentiment that goes around and some sort of revenge tour for a perceived slight that they never actually received. So surprise, surprise, Kathleen Kennedy got a lot of criticism towards this campaign and what it said to male Star Wars fans. Namely, you're not welcome. But you see, the thing about fans is they're amazing. They come into your franchise, they plow it full of money, they make it successful, and they give you chance after chance after chance, even when you fail. They are the greatest thing that you will ever have. First in the door and last to leave. So just imagine trying to piss them off. That would be the dumbest thing that anyone could do, wouldn't it? But who cares when you have mainstream media writing articles for you so they can gain access? Interviews with stars of the films, invites to premieres of these films. Stroke the ego of these insecure narcissists and they'll write any hit piece that you want whatsoever, attacking the fans. Didn't like this? You're a sexist. Didn't like that? You're a bigot. But fans aren't stupid. They know where this comes from and they know it comes from you. So all that happens is that the websites that need the customers to exist attack the customers that they need to exist, driving the customers away from that website to other sources, knowing full well that also that hit piece has come from the corporation, which then in effect makes them leave said fandom.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
And this is my favorite article of all, from What Culture in 2018. Do you want to know what the article's called? Why Star Wars fans are wrong to hate Kathleen Kennedy. Where is it, What Culture? Where's the article? Why did you take it down? I'm listening. Huh? I'm listening. Surely there can't be this much backlash just from Kathleen Kennedy wearing a goddamn t-shirt, for goodness sake. Quite correct. These things happened in 2018. In 2017, there had been something else. Another Star Wars movie. It was called We Hate the Actual Good Star Wars, particularly Luke Skywalker, because he's the most popular character and we're going to do everything in our power to absolutely destroy him, to make him look like an ineffectual cuck so that we can try and lift up our bland, boring, brunette Mary Sue piece of shit. I know, it was a long title, wasn't it? This wasn't just the destruction of Luke Skywalker. This movie was the destruction of all male characters. Finn was now relegated to wandering around after some dumb bint called Rose Tico. Poe Dameron was put in his place, even though he was quite correct to question what was going on, by Admiral Gender Studies. Admiral Akbar was unceremoniously killed off while Leia became fucking Mary Poppins in space. And Kylo Ren, whose character was already dangling by a thread, was turned into an absolutely pathetic joke. Whereas The Force Awakens had taken over $2 billion at the box office, The Last Jedi did $1.3 billion. And with a budget of $300 million plus marketing on top, there is some doubt again whether or not this movie made any money at all. But we had seen our first clear fracture between Star Wars fans and Disney Star Wars fans. Then add on top of that Kathleen Kennedy's antagonistic anti-male sentiment, you get a very disgruntled fan base. So it was time for another Star Wars story. This time a prequel to a beloved character, Han Solo. Any Harrison Ford? No, nowhere in sight. But do you want to know how he got his surname? You don't? Well, fuck you. You're gonna get it anyway.
What's your name, son?
What?
What? Who are your people?
I don't have people.
Solo.
Hands up who got cancer from watching that. I know I did. It took a staggeringly low $11,670 at the box. Sorry, wrong Solo. My bad. It did a staggeringly low $393 million, losing money outright for Disney Star Wars. A budget that was out of control due to mass reshoots, directors getting fired, new ones brought in. The whole thing was an unmitigated disaster, and that was behind the scenes. Never mind the absolute garbage that the movie was. If you're interested in Lando Calrissian fucking robots, this is the movie for you. If you're interested in Han Solo being led around by Khaleesi like a lapdog, this is the film for you. Doesn't resemble anything whatsoever to do with Han Solo, but I guess that is the Disney way. This movie was set up to fail, and it performed exactly as it should have. Terribly. Which then led us headlong into the mitigated disaster that would be known as The Rise of Skywalker, the lowest performing movie out of the sequel trilogy, bringing in just over $1 billion. Again, with a budget out of control, it's very likely that this film lost money, leaving The Force Awakens as potentially the only Disney Star Wars film to have made a profit. And it stays that way because there hasn't been another cinematic venture since. The only thing that did rise was the number of YouTube channels that were talking about this absolute disaster from Disney. And it wasn't just limited to Star Wars, it was now filtering into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. Another story, though, for another time. As this so-called vocal minority began to grow in prominence, so did the desire to take them down, with hit pieces being created. One specifically, though, stood out. It was by a very small organization called Rewriting Ripley. However, it had clear ties to Disney Star Wars, in particular, Pablo Hidalgo. In a pathetic desire to discredit these voices that were tearing Star Wars apart, rightfully so, they put out articles like, "Let's talk about Star Wars alt-right recruitment program. Holy shit! Star Wars is recruiting Nazis?" Oh yeah, they are actually. This is a Funko Pop that was sent to me by a lovely viewer. It's a stormtrooper from Star Wars, which literally symbolizes a German stormtrooper. But he's draped out in a pride flag because Yahtzee stormtroopers are stunning and bright. This is what happens when a corporation tries to pander to people and they got no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Read the full story in plain sight. How white supremacy, misogyny, and hate targeted the Star Wars sequel trilogy and won. That's weird. You see, I personally thought it had something to do with the complete and utter mismanagement of the franchise, the targeting of the male audience that Kathleen Kennedy stressed that she didn't need to cater to at all. The fact that she took it in a direction that spat upon the original Star Wars, the reason why the whole fan base was there in the first place, and then tried to blame it on the very same people who didn't want to gobble up this garbage. But that's just me. But what I feel is a little bit more interesting is what exactly happened just the previous month in the world of Disney Star Wars. Why, Gina Carano, fan favorite of the show The Mandalorian, had been fired for expressing her First Amendment rights on social media. However, her co-star Pedro Pascal was not fired for expressing his. But even then, let's go back another couple of months to December with the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, which saw the return of Luke Skywalker, which a lot of fans took as an effort to course correct the Star Wars franchise by bringing the character back into the universe. Star Wars Theory, the biggest Star Wars YouTube channel out there, filmed his reaction to the return of Luke Skywalker, which saw him get exceedingly emotional and shed some tears. As with such emotion, it spreads around social media, and when somebody decided to at in Lucasfilm creative executive Pablo Hidalgo, where have we just heard that name, he responded by saying this: "Emotions are not for sharing." Holy shit, did I eat Pablo Hidalgo? Can we get a... I'm trying. It's a work in progress. Understandably, he received a lot of criticism for this and ended up protecting his Twitter account, moving across to use his alt instead. Even though he claimed he wasn't referring to Star Wars Theory, he ended up phoning Star Wars Theory to apologize for this tweet. This was some of the most stupid behavior from a Lucasfilm executive, not only because they were directly attacking a fan, but they were directly attacking probably Star Wars' biggest ally on YouTube, somebody who had gone to bat for the franchise time and time again, even in these most difficult of times. But this displayed again a clear pattern of behavior from Disney Star Wars, from Lucasfilm. They were anti-fan. They hated the fan, more particularly fans that loved the original stuff and didn't gobble down their Disney shite. So after they fire Gina Carano, after they mock the fans for the Mandalorian Season 2 finale, what do? They go and corporate sponsor a hit piece by rewriting Ripley. A pathetic attempt to cover up their own disgusting behavior. The Book of Boba Fett came and went, thoroughly rejected by fans. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series came and went, thoroughly rejected by fans. And probably the most important of the lot, due to its recent success with seasons 1 and 2, The Mandalorian Season 3 came and went, thoroughly rejected by fans. Disney Star Wars had now earned exactly what it was, a 2-bit television show on a failed streaming service that nobody was watching. Rian Johnson's announced trilogy of movies nowhere in sight. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie nowhere in sight. 5 years since a movie had released, and Disney, of course, announcing the return of Rey to the cinema. What could possibly go wrong with that film? But as the great Chris Gore said, turning Star Wars into a girl brand will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in entertainment history. And he's not wrong. The audiences are leaving in droves, and there is nobody who is replacing them. This isn't appealing to anybody whatsoever. Not only are Disney not course correcting, but they're doubling, tripling, quadrupling, they're doing that as well. They are just constantly putting more crap on the table and expecting people to eat it. So enter The Acolyte. Helmed by the former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, please never ever forget that. The Acolyte is so bad that even the mainstream media are having to concoct the most outrageous headlines to defend it. The Acolyte has a writer that had never seen Star Wars. Here's how they made the show even better in episode 3. So good, in fact, that it now holds a 14% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, making the Star Wars Christmas special look like Citizen fucking Kane. So whose fault is it now that Star Wars is seen as nothing more than a pathetic, laughable joke? Why, of course, it's your fault. It's the fans' fault. Looper, a channel with 5.71 million subscribers that can't get any views on any videos anymore, decided to put the brunt of the criticism for The Acolyte on The Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic. In a now deleted post of their episode 3 review, but don't worry, the internet is forever, they accuse both The Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic of encouraging hatred and bigotry. Whoa. Let's hear what they have to say, shall we?
Some audience members have issues with the show's diversity and LGBTQ+ themes, and those should be dismissed.
Why? Why should those be dismissed? Putting superficial representation ahead of good characterization and storytelling is a very valid criticism. Communist space lesbian witches within itself is laughable, but I guess we just dismissed that too.
However, viewers should genuinely examine the legitimate criticisms The Acolyte has received. Cultural critics like The Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic have dubbed the show lore-breaking for its recent revelations.
Okay, that's absolutely correct. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
But their commentary isn't productive. Rather, it encourages bigotry and hatred over a show that's just getting started.
Whoa. How did you make a leap from they criticized it as law breaking to suddenly promoting hatred and bigotry? It's as if you created something out of nothing there to create your own narrative. And I get the feeling that you deleted this video because they might want to sue your fucking ass off for defamation. The simple truth is, channels like Nerdrotic and The Critical Drinker do have an incredible amount of sway today because people are wanting objective truth. They're wanting authenticity. They're coming to people who they believe will give them their honest opinion, whether they like something or dislike something. Not only that, they are both very well versed in popular culture and writing and nerddom in general. They understand the fan, they understand the material, and they can articulate it very well in videos to the degree that the drinker is getting about 2 million views each on his Acolyte reviews. What I've said in a long-winded way is that both Nerdrotic and The Critical Drinker are in touch with their audiences. They respect their audiences, and their audiences view them as legitimate. Something the mainstream media and Disney Star Wars are no longer perceived as. That is why they become the target of attacks. One thing mainstream media and corporate-based fandom cannot replicate is authenticity, because they are both shallow and fake. They don't possess any sincerity, and that's why people turn away from them in their droves, hence why mainstream media is falling apart at the seams. Hit pieces fall flat because people know exactly who it's coming from and they know exactly where the problem lies. This only goes to increase the support that they get and also increase the legitimacy that they have. After all, you always take the most fire when you're above the target. Case in point, Kathleen Kennedy. Women who make Star Wars franchise installments struggle with male fan-base sexism. Oh no, it's not that they're writing complete and utter shite that nobody wants. No, it's ma-sexism, ma-bigotry, ma-phobia, excuse after excuse. And the one group of people that you aren't blaming are yourselves. Oh no, we're above reproach. We could never be wrong. Soulless Corporation putting out shoddy product could never be wrong. It must be the fans. It must be sexism. It must be an ist. It must be a phobe. And you wonder why people are leaving in their droves. Not to get too meta here, but Kathleen Kennedy admitted Star Wars was a male-dominated brand. Kathleen Kennedy has turned it into a Disney princess brand. Kathleen Kennedy understands this is antithetical to what the brand is. Kathleen Kennedy then complains that women are having a hard time cracking a male-dominated space. Kathleen Kennedy is fucking retarded. The Acolyte didn't kill Star Wars, it was already dead. It's nothing more now than a punching bag of mockery and memes. Only one person is responsible for the death of Disney Star Wars, and that person is Kathleen Kennedy. And in my eyes, she did it in 2016 when she turned her back on the male predominant audience of the franchise. Well, guess what, Kathy?
Get what you fucking deserve!